Here, tell us now, we're going to begin with a look at the economic angle of that crisis in Ukraine.
Absolutely. Both ordinary Ukrainians and the financial community worry about the fallout of that unrest that we've seen in the past few days. In some parts of Ukraine, there have been long queues of people rushing to withdraw cash. They want to protect their savings from any future problems. Investors, they also seem to be growing increasingly nervous. Standard & Poor's has cut its credit rating of Ukraine by a notch from CCC plus to CCC. It also says further downgrades could be on the cards. The credit rater warns that the unrest could make it more difficult for Ukraine to service its debts. Ukraine is in need of money to stave off a default, and Russia has pledged to send a multi-billion-dollar lifeline. But the Russian government says this Friday that it's undecided on its next $2 billion installment. It says it wants further clarity from Kiev. Now, there has been a deal this Friday between the president and the opposition, and the Ukrainian currency, the hryvnia, has stabilized against the dollar. Earlier, I spoke to Lilith Gevorgian at IHS Global Insight in London. She says Ukraine must project credibility in the longer term to get financial help.
Ukraine needs a functioning government, a government that any lender, including Russia, has to be confident about, to know who they're actually giving the money to. If they cannot come up with a lasting agreement, the agreement that lasts at least for a couple of months between the opposition and the government, and if the political chaos continues, this effectively means that Russia will probably not continue with its bond buying scheme, and IMF and EU would also be reluctant to throw out money without knowing who is in charge, and that will significantly increase the risk of default.
Once again, Lilith Gevorgian there. We're going to turn to corporate news next. The luxury company Kering was the biggest loser on France's main stock market index this Friday. Its full-year results slumped from $1 billion in 2012 to just $50 million last year. Kering blames a costly restructuring that's meant to refocus the group on high-end brands like Gucci. Julia Seeger has more now.
Gucci launches its autumn-winter 2015 collection at Milan's Fashion Week, hoping it'll boost its sales. In the front row, actress Salma Hayek is sitting next to her husband, François-Henri Pinault, the head of the French luxury group Kering, which owns the Italian brand. Although sales at Gucci have recently declined, the CEO says there's nothing to worry about. The high-end brand still represents more than half of Kering's sales.
The group is backed by strong brands and is well positioned to press ahead with our strategy. I'm confident that 2014 will see an improvement in overall revenue and operating profit.
The group says it's taking a strategic business turn, and that its slowing growth is due to deep restructuring charges. In the last 12 months, Kering has withdrawn from its lower-end retailers, such as sports retailer Puma and music and electronics retailer Fnac. Now, Kering wants to focus all of its attention on its high-end brands, such as Yves Saint Laurent, Bottega Veneta or Boucheron. And Gucci is to remain its flagship brand. This strategy was implemented by the CEO Pinault when he took over from his father, who had originally created a broader retail business. In 2013, two-thirds of Kering's sales came from its luxury division.
We're going to take a look at the stock markets now in the United States this session. The indices are in positive territory. Investors, they're shaking off a report that shows that home sales were down in January. They're blaming that downturn on the weather, which they think is temporary. In Europe earlier, the indices ended with gains. European markets, they were seen to be taking their cue from the United States, and we saw basically all three main indices in Europe end in positive territory. Shares in RBS ended Friday's session up. It follows a report that a restructuring may be on the card for the British bank. It would shrink the lender's investment banking unit and also international operations. The Financial Times and the Daily Telegraph report that up to a quarter of the bank's workforce could be cut. That corresponds to around 30,000 jobs. And a strike among security personnel has caused chaos at Frankfurt Airport, one of Europe's largest hubs. Security workers walked off the job demanding higher wages. Only 74 out of 1,300 flights were cancelled, though, on Friday. But many planes, they left only partially filled. This since there weren't enough staff to screen passengers. However, transfer passengers could go straight through to their connecting flights, and that is why we saw at least some flights getting away with people on board. And with that, I'm going to wrap up the business news. It's back to you, Tom.
Thank you very much indeed, Marcus. Well, it's time now for a check of the top sports